You look fabulous, honey.
Thank you.
I want to tilt your screen a little bit
How
more.
y'all doing?
Good
Good morning.
morning, Congressman.
All right. How you doing, Fannie Lou?
Oh, I'm so blessed. I'm so glad to see you again. And it
Yeah.
is certainly my honor.
Well, I apologize for being a little late, but things happen. But I'm
Yes,
glad we're here now.
okay.
Indeed. Indeed. Well, we'll just get off and running. Of course, I want to introduce myself again and who we are. So, my name is Jehuti Sehotep, and I'm the Business Development Director with Healing Through the Sound of Music. We are defined as an institutional legacy, social impact, music and theater performing arts company, and we commemorate Black women for their social and political impact on this nation and abroad. Featured production is the Fannie Lou Hamer story, Sick and Tired of Being Sick and Tired, now a national tour of its Voice of the Empowered Vote national tour, written and performed by Mzuri Moyo Mbaye. And today we're going to have an interview with Congressman Benny Thompson, and conducting an interview is the one and only Mr. Dunn Pearson, uh, music uh, music director for Healing Through the Sound of Music and former music director of the OJs. And today he's going to be providing his service as the all done all done production media service, our advertising services. So with that being said, I'm going to take myself off the screen and let Mr. Pearson take over for the interview.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Jehuti, for such a wonderful introduction, as always. You're great, Congressman. First, before we get started, of course, I want to thank you for your extraordinary service to our country. You certainly made me proud, and I'm sure you've made many of us that look like me proud, as well as all Americans. I also want to quickly thank Mzuri, of course, for her continued commitment to keeping the legacy of Fannie Lou Hamer at the forefront of our leaders in the struggle to simply be equal human beings. I think that really touches me, and I'll just quickly throw in my little job for the OJs is that, we have a song called Love Train, and it's called People All Over the World. Mr. Congressman Thompson, you may have heard that song
Oh, yeah.
somewhere down your
Well, I had the OJs in my district last August.
All right, there you go. All right, so you get it.
Well,
And
they turned it out too.
that's right.
Yeah.
Well, of course, the Love Train, of course, is always about inclusive of all of us, and so that's the sentiment of what we're doing here today. So not to beleaguer the point, I know your time is short. Let's get right to it. Um, in the let's go from the beginning here. Congress, I'm going to ask you a question about your reflections about Fannie Lou Hamer. But before we get to that, maybe give me a little something about yourself personally and your history, because as you know, as many documentaries in the beginning are going to be a backstory about you, and I'm going to read part of your
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you very much, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk about a hero of mine, Fannie Lou Hamer. Let me kind of set the frame for you. I live in a town of 500 people right now. I was born and raised in that little town, and I still live there. So it was one of those typical Mississippi sharecropping towns where the white landed gentry owned everything, and black folk did the work. But there were a few people in my community who encouraged people like Benny Thompson to go to school. My first school was named Bolton Colored School, and not Bolton School, because the white kids went to the Bolton School. We went to the Bolton Colored School. Bolton School was brick, had a gymnasium, had a cafeteria, had a library, everything a school is supposed to have. The school I went to had none. The restroom facilities were outside, just typical. Never had a new textbook my whole public school career. I was always in the history books, one or two governors behind, or I was one or two presidents behind, because the books passed down by the white school to the black school. Okay, so, but I had good teachers. I had that adage that it takes an entire village to raise a child. Well, I was in one of those communities, and so despite all the impediments, Black kids were encouraged to be the best that they could be, in spite of the challenges. So we participated early on in civil rights movement. My church actually ended up being the Head Start program for my area, because the traditional Head Start Center was burned down by the Ku Klux Klan. And so our church said, look, these are our children who can't go to school. You all can go to school at our church. And the men of that church stood guard at night so the Klan wouldn't burn our church down. So that's kind of the legacy. And a lot of other things went on. But my best experience was when I went to Tougaloo College. Tougaloo College was the bastion of civil rights movement in our state. When I was there, I met Martin Luther King Jr., Medgar Evers, Stokely Carmichael, Rap Brown, every major Black civil rights figure, Harry Belafonte, Dick Gregory. I mean, they just, because my school was the only school that Black and white could assemble and the police not break up the assembly, because it was a private liberal arts college. And so it was kind of that as a backdrop that helped frame me to this day. Somebody says normally you are the sum total of your experiences. And so my experiences were significant. The first political campaign I worked on at Tougaloo was Mrs. Hamer's campaign for Congress in the Mississippi Delta. And fast forward, that's now the district that I represent. And so I remember my teachers taking us up to do voter registration and things like that. And I was so excited when I got to go back home and tell my mother that I had been up to the Delta to help those poor Blacks because they're not registered and voting. And my mama told me, said, well, we don't even register and vote here in Bolton. Shocked me. You understand? Here I am going 100 miles away to get folk liberated or freed, and I got it in my own backyard. And so when I finished in 1968 at Tougaloo, I ran for office in 1969 in my hometown. And fortunately, I ran for a seat on the Board of Aldermen. 3 of us, we won. But what happened along the way, I got fired from a teaching job because they said teachers don't get involved in politics. And I didn't say yes, sir, to the superintendent. Now that sounds kind of far-fetched, but that was it. Went to court. I was fortunate to win. But by that time, I had the fever for political change. And it was people like Mrs. Hamer who encouraged a little Black boy from Bolton, Mississippi, not to leave Mississippi, to stay. And once you were ever in her company, you were mesmerized by her sayings. You were mesmerized by the songs that she sang, and just the fact that in the minds of all of us, here was somebody who had not really had the benefit of what we call a traditional education, but one of the smartest, bravest individuals we'd ever met. And so I consider my exposure to Mrs. Hamer as one of those rare experiences that I've had during my political career, because it helped set the tone. You know, that saying, "I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired." Everybody says that, but that was an original Fannie Lou Hamer statement that resonates all over when you're talking about people being frustrated about a particular situation. So all I can say is, with all she endured, she never gave up. And that is a lot of the Fannie Lou Hamer spirit that lives on today.
Well, I thank you so much for those wonderful words, because, you know, never giving up is what you also exhibit. You never give up as well. So that tie-in of that legacy of those moments there permeate throughout your whole voice. I can hear it. I can hear it through the sound of your voice. And of course, Mzuri has certainly been part of the struggle for a long, long time. She's continued to keep the Fannie Lou Hamer name and legacy in the forefront of all of our leaders. And I'm so happy to be a part of this wonderful production. I want the two of you now to maybe talk about, I know that Mzuri, you did a recent performance by which you met Congressman Thompson. Maybe the two of you can sort of talk about how you guys got together, how it felt. Just give me some background, the two of you. Go ahead.
Well, I want to just thank the congressman, because when you were running, I'm not sure what year that was. Maybe you don't want to tell. It's been a long time ago. I remember that somebody came and got me. I was in Mississippi and drove me to one of your rallies. And there I performed a bit of my play, The Fannie Lou Hamer Story, at the rally. And I was so well received. I can still see you standing there on the stage. And I was so welcomed into Mississippi, and I never forgot you. And it was an honor. And also last week I did the opening for your keynote at the Martin Luther King Jr. Dinner that Carl Snowden gives. It was the 37th annual dinner for Dr. Martin Luther King, and I opened for you. And it was an incredible experience. I almost didn't get to go on. Mr. Snowden was so busy with all the wonderful guests that he had. And so I'm like, don't forget me. I got to open for Congressman Thompson. So I was a little nervous, but as the Lord will have it, I got on, and I had my say as Fannie Lou Hamer. And I hope that I brought back memories to you of what she meant to you when I did that small excerpt.
Well, you absolutely did. And I sat there in absolute awe of how you have perfected Fannie Lou's demeanor. You sound just like her. And, if I was behind the curtain and you were on the other side, I'd say, my God, she's back. And
Wow.
so that tells me that you're where you need to be. But part of what we have to do is not let her legacy of other Black people die. History has a way of diminishing Black excellence. And so what we have to do in every venue, promote it. If we don't promote it as people of color, then I'm almost sure that in time it will not survive. And so not only should we promote it during Martin Luther King Jr. programs and Black History programs, but it ought to be incorporated into curriculums at schools on a regular. We need to have social organizations promoting it, because we need to understand that where we are today just didn't happen overnight. It was the struggles of people like Fannie Lou Hamer and others who basically put their lives on the line to make a difference. Who would have thought that going to the Democratic Convention in the early 60s in Atlantic City, and there Fannie Lou Hamer was brought to the forefront to represent the new Mississippi. And it was that speech at Atlantic City that elevated her standing in the broader community, simply because she was so passionate with her speech. And so people said, who is this Fannie Lou woman? And so when you had a chance to sit at her feet and listen to the prophetic statements made by Fannie Lou, you know she was genuine. And that's why I think people now are now going back, looking at things, and it's the fact that we can continue to promote it in a positive way. I was able to get $2 million last year for the Fannie Lou Hamer Cancer Center in Ruleville, Mississippi. It's under construction right now,
Wow.
but it was only because she suffered and died from that disease, but she didn't feel comfortable going to any of the other health facilities in the state because of how she had been treated in the past. So ultimately, she went to the Taborian Hospital in Mound Bayou, Mississippi, which is the oldest all-Black town in America. And so that's where she died. And I was happy to get some resources to redo the Taborian Hospital. So it's back up. It's a medical facility in the community. But it was Fannie Lou's spirit that led us to try to do that. We created a park in Ruleville, Mississippi, that identifies, actually that's where she's buried. She and her husband, Pat, are buried side by side there in Ruleville. So there's a big legacy there, but we have to continue to promote it. And there's no better promotion than to have somebody who can sing and speak just like Fannie Lou.
Well, thank you, Congressman. I appreciate that. And I would love you to pin that on a paper so I could take that to as many colleges as possible.